Welcome in. It's the Second Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and tonight we are recapping the second round of the Charles Schwab Challenge. And joining me to do just that, Greg DuCharme is here. What up, Gregors?
What's going on, Rick? Feels like it's been so long. I missed Tuesday's episode, unfortunately, but I'm really glad to be back. And we've had a couple interesting days here at the Charles Schwab at Colonial. Great golf course. It's been exciting to watch so far.
I do want to talk about that. It is good to have you back. Also, if you've noticed, there is a new box in the lower right-hand corner of our screen that has the running comments. This is a test. We're gonna see what the people do if they can do this properly and not make us have to remove their comments from the screen. But I wanted to test this out. So go ahead. Yeah, hit the comment box. Let's see how it goes. I want to see what happens when we get a bunch of comments in at once. So don't be afraid to do that. But we're always trying new things, Greg. I want to see what's going on.
Look, we're forward thinking here, and that's first of all really cool. The other thing is that's so cool. We get so many comments running throughout the entire show. And
Right.
sometimes Mina does a great job pulling up the notables, but it's really cool to see them all. I like the look of it so far.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes, but don't be afraid to fire away. Let's talk about the golf course. So Colonial, now I believe 2 years into the new greens, and the opening round Thursday played about a third of a stroke over par, Greg. It was a little bit easier here on Friday, just a touch under par. The cut line is going to end up being even, which is my second favorite cut line is even. Do you know what my favorite cut line is?
I would guess no, I have no clue. One over.
If I had to rank the cut lines, -1 is the best cut line.
Really?
And my opinion being, if you're under par, you're in. Okay, you shoot under par, you get to play the weekend. Even par, because it's a round number, it's even. It's close to 1 under. That is my second favorite cut line, and then mostly cut lines after that I don't care about. But those are my two favorite.
Well, I like both of those. I like the reasons. I think we've talked about this before. So, what if you just had every week a set score for the cut line?
Yes. And like if this week it was 1 under, you would just have 49 and tides get in, or if it was 2 under, 35 and tides get in. It's just like if the field gets chopped by 80%, well, stinks for you guys. You didn't hit the cut line.
Yeah, and I think 1 under would be like you got to go shoot under par the first 2 days. It would totally change the way that these guys play. It would be fascinating to see. Sometimes you'd have a huge group make the cut. Other times it get very small.
The other problem is, the cut line being this living, breathing entity. It makes it confusing when you're watching on TV. It makes it difficult for players. Oh, should I hang around? I got to see if this cut line is going to go in one direction or another. You have guys that are influencing others on the cut line by the scores that they are making, good or bad. The static cut line, like, dude, if you didn't get the 2 under, you go home. Just don't wait around. Goodbye. It's been fun, and you get rewarded for meeting that cut line, no matter what your peers do.
Right, where it's always been relative, and so much of what we do is relative, which makes sense. We're all, in theory, we're all playing the same golf course, even though it changes throughout the day. The concept is we're all playing the same golf course, and this is the cut line. Where else it would be really interesting is in waves. All right, if you did like a strokes gain breakdown wave to wave, there are some weeks where it would be vastly different. But it would be kind of, hey, it doesn't really matter. You got to shoot this score, whether you're on the right side of the draw or the wrong side of the draw. I think it'd be a really cool. I don't know if we need to see that every week, but it would be cool, a really cool thing for them to test out here and there, because it would be very simple to follow. I think Friday would create phenomenal theater. Maybe that's an idea that they put in place for the signature events. And there's been a lot of clamoring for cuts in those events. Maybe they raise that field a little bit, get a couple more guys in the signature events, and throw a static cut on it. I think it could be fantastic.
Yeah, that's true, because if you're not going to cut anybody anyway, like, who cares if everybody makes the cut, right? So even if you were very generous with the cut number and you said it was okay, if you're 3 over or better, you get to play the weekend at a signature event. Well, we weren't going to cut anybody anyway. So if someone is 7 or 8 over through 2 rounds, they probably don't even want to be around for the weekend, and
Go home.
They go home, go do something else. That's the best. That is the best time to implement it.
Yeah. So it cuts out some of the outliers for sure. The other thing is, Rick, it's a really difficult thing to play for a specific score. It's very different than going out and trying to beat your opponent or beat the guy that's playing next to you. It's very different when you're playing, competing for a score. And I've done that. If you're trying to become a PGA of America professional, you got to take what's called a player ability test. And that's a set score, regardless of the conditions. It has to do with the course slope, and there's a handicap, and you usually got to shoot 78 kind of thing over 36 holes. And people freak out. Now, I'm sure the tour players would be able to handle it, but you start getting close, it would create a lot of drama.
Well, I love it. We will continue to workshop that idea over the course of the next couple of weeks. But let's talk about Colonial here. I like Colonial a lot, right? I mean, you've got guys. So we've got 2 leaders that are 11 under par. They've got themselves a little bit of a cushion at the moment. But the always lurking kind of double or pitch out or just things start to go sideways. And we've seen great players make big scores this week. We've seen guys just get bogeyed to death. We've seen, I think I saw Maverick McNeely make a double out of the gate, and Joe Highsmith has probably had a 7 or an 8 on his car. I mean, there's just big numbers lurking out there, but if you play well, you can get rewarded.
There shouldn't be big numbers on this golf course. I'd look at it, and when I look at the holes and the way they're set up and the conditions, it should be the kind of golf course where you make bogeys, and birdies are hard to come by, and that's why it tends to be one of the more difficult golf courses on the PGA Tour, especially non-major courses on the PGA Tour, when it's firm and fast like it's been this week. But guys are still making mistakes. To your point, they are making big numbers, which I don't know exactly. There's not a easy place to point to for that. You don't have a Green Mile, for instance. You don't have a hole like number 12 in Augusta.
I'm sorry. The horrible horseshoe doesn't do it for you, Greg?
Well, the horrible horseshoe is pretty cool. It's still, if you go through and look at those holes, they're not necessarily designed just look at the maps of these holes. Okay. Yeah. So it's 3, 4, and 5. 3 is a 450-yard dogleg left. You can give yourself a wedge in. You just got to deal with some bunkers off the tee and avoid running through the fairway. It's difficult, but there's nothing when you look at the map that says, hey, if you hit it over here, you're making a double. Correct. It's not a double's not coming from one shot. Number 4 is a long par 3. There's not a bunker on it. There's not a single bunker on the hole. And number 5 also has no bunkers on the hole. There shouldn't necessarily be, and I know on 5 it's a long par 4, and you have a penalty area down the right hand side with trees, but it shouldn't be a heavy double golf course. Now the hard thing is if you hit it into this really light rough, you have to negotiate, how you're going to control your ball coming out of it, and that can be a very difficult thing to do. I think it's fun and compelling to watch. I mean, you got to play shots around here. I think that's why Scotty Scheffler has had so much success around this place. You got to, I know we're going to talk about Scotty, but his ability yesterday to land the ball short of the green, bounce it up onto the green, and get it hole high is a skill that is a lot more challenging than you might think. Now, we just got a comment here. Please don't say Colonial is tough before a PGA Championship is hosted next year. I don't think that's going to happen. But it is tough. It's been a top 10 most difficult golf course on the PGA Tour each of the last 5, or average the last 5 years.
Yeah, it is difficult, and the firm greens do not make it any easier. Let's I'm feeling like starting at the top of the board tonight, which is where we're going to start here. And as of right now, we've got a pair of golfers at 11 under, and they have done it each by shooting a 66 on Thursday and a 63 on Friday. That 63 is the round of the day as of right now. We've got Jackson Suber, who has a hole to play. He could technically get in there and also shoot a 7 under round. And I think that's probably the only guy who could get to match these two for round of the day, which is Ben Griffin and Matty Schmidt. Let's start with the more logical guy at the top of the board here, Greg, which would be Ben Griffin. He won the Zurich Classic alongside Andrew Novak. He has been playing great golf this year. He's been playing a lot of golf this year. In fact, I think last time I checked, and I can't imagine it's changed because he tees it up every single week, he's played more golf than anybody this year. And coming off of a T8 finish at the PGA Championship, puffing out his chest a little bit, Ben Griffin is in the mix trying to win as an individual for the first time.
Clearly playing some really solid golf, like we saw last week at the PGA Championship, and he's rolled it over into this week. And I really like the way that he's done it, Rick. You know, he was third in the field today, approaching the green. He hit 8 approach shots inside 11 feet. Now, like I said, it's a hard golf course. There's not a lot of birdies to be made out here. You know, you don't have, like at Quail Hollow, you had very clear pockets where you could make your birdies. You had 2 short, near drivable, sometimes drivable par 4s and 3 par 5s. Here we have, you know, one par 5 on each side, and you don't get the short drivable hole you should birdie when it comes to the par 4s. So in order to make birdies, you got to hit high quality shots. You can't drive it up strategically into the right position and rely on your short game to make birdies around here, which makes it really difficult to put circles on the scorecard. But when you can hit it close the way Ben Griffin did all day and avoid bogeys, he did make 1, but avoid bogeys, that's the only way you can make 8 birdies. It's really hard to do. You got to hit a lot of really high quality shots. That's exactly what Ben Griffin did. So it was impressive, not only in the score, but also impressive the way he went about doing it.
Yeah, and just seems like he's really just found his stride, and it's paying dividends in a big way. He's 21st in the FedEx Cup standings coming into the week. He's made $3.2 million already. It's piling up in a good way for Ben Griffin. The not so familiar name, or at least the name that maybe didn't expect to be on the top of the leaderboard, is Matty Schmidt here, Greg. At his second round here today was splendid. It was that 7 under round that I referred to. He did not have a bogey on the card. The Thursday round was a little more dramatic. He had 2 bogeys and a double en route to that 66. And Matty Schmidt has really only found his success this year at some of the weaker events. T7 at Myrtle Beach, T9 at Punta Cana, T6 in Puerto Rico. Those are by far the best results that he has had. A lot of other missed cuts, no other top 15 finishes. So he has been making his hay when these fields get a little bit weaker.
And you notice it's tough on the stats because those events we don't have strokes gain data for, right? So the performance doesn't look great from Matty Schmidt until this week. And what he did in round 1 was he made everything he looked at. He got really hot with the putter. He made 158 feet of putts. Again, average on the PGA Tour is about 72 feet of putts made. He gained 5 strokes with the putter yesterday. And when you look at that, if we had done a Thursday episode, we would have said, yeah, that's probably not a sustainable model. But he comes out today and hits it a whole lot better. And while he made 8 birdies in round 1 to shoot, what he shoots 66 in round 1, he goes out and makes 7 birdies in round 2, but shoots 63. So he was able to keep the bogeys off the card. And a lot of that had to do with the additional control he had of his golf ball. He hit 3 more fairways, went from 5 of 14 fairways to 8 of 14 fairways, hit 3 more greens as well, 9 of 18 greens in round 1, up to 12 in round 2. So he was able to gain 2 strokes approaching the green as well. It's interesting, Rick, because it's not really the kind of golf course you would expect Matty Schmidt to have success on. but a much better tee to green performance today. All of a sudden, it takes that putting performance of round one and it puts it in the bank rather than something unsustainable. It's like, hey, I put 5 strokes on the board with the putter for the week. Now let's see what we can do with the rest of our game from here.
So those two leaders, 11 under par, they are currently 3 shots clear. John Pock still out on the golf course at 8 under. He's got a couple of holes to play. He could conceivably eat into that lead, but those two are with almost all certainty going to be your leaders going into the weekend. And just to put a bow on Greg's point, Matty Schmidt, first in strokes gained putting for the week, hasn't played poorly everywhere else, especially because the second round numbers help significantly. So he's gaining throughout the bag. First in the field, picking up 6.5 strokes with the putter. Ben Griffin, 7th in approach this week. He's 26th off the tee. He's 11th around the green. He's 9th with the flat stick. So that's a much more well-rounded performance that Ben Griffin is putting up. Let me hit you with a couple of notables here, and we'll start with Scotty Scheffler, who's fresh off his PGA Tour. I almost called it the PGA Tour Championship, which, fun fact, not to throw our guys over at CBS Sports under the bus because they do great work, but Greg, on Wednesday morning, we were about to go hot for our very first hit of the week. Wednesday morning live coverage starts, and they were showing us the graphics, and it said PGA Tour Championship. And we were like, somebody make a phone call because that cannot get to air right now. And as you would expect, they handled it very quickly, very professionally. They got that fixed, but I almost just called it the PGA Tour Championship right now.
Yep. It's a very confusing thing. It's a very confusing thing. I mean, normally you see PGA Tour referred to as the PGA because it's just shorter. Right. And then you get an actual PGA Championship. It's like, well, now what? But an important distinction, and it's a good catch by you guys, making sure that graphic doesn't get to air. So really important. But Rick, for Scotty Scheffler today, this was, I think, a surprising round. You look at what he did in round one, and he gets off to the eagle birdie start, and he's looking really good. He shoots 2 under par, which was just 2 off a second. And John Pock had a 3-shot lead. He was up at 7 under par. So it looked like Scotty could really make a move today. And even another round of 68 would go a long way for his chances into the weekend. But unfortunately, it's 71, and he just putted terribly in this round. And look, putting's one of those interesting things. It's why it rates out pretty low in our models. When you're looking at assessing success, the guys that are hot with the putter have a tendency of falling off because you can putt well and not make putts. That wasn't the case for Scotty Scheffler today. He didn't make putts, but he didn't putt well at all. I mean, the stats say that he had 34 putts and lost 2.8 strokes on the greens. They say he made 35 feet of putts made. Again, that's half of what PGA Tour average is. But when you look at the strokes he was making, there were some noticeable pulls, a couple of noticeable pushes, which I believe are in response to that pull. They were putts that did not have his interest. He was standing out of these putts really early, knew right off the blade they were going to miss.
I am glad you brought up the start that he had on Thursday because the ebbs and flows of this tournament, Greg. So Scotty Scheffler, like you said, Eagles 1, birdies 2. He's 3 under through his first 2 holes, fresh off a victory at the PGA Championship, fresh off a victory at the Byron Nelson. And I'm thinking, here we go again. Scotty is just going to bulldoze this field. So 3 under through his first 2 holes. He is 2 over in his last 34 holes, and he has only made 1, 2, 3 birdies in total since that start of being 3 under through 2. So, I mean, what a game these guys are trying to play out here. It looked like it was going to be a rout for Scotty again.
It really did. But again, there aren't those holes that are, I call them gimme birdies. They're not gimme birdies, but there's not the holes that you have circled on the scorecard where you should make birdie, except for number 1. He's played number 1, 3 under par. So you got to go get number 1. But other than that, he's had a really hard time converting. And part of the reason there is it requires really 3 good shots to make a birdie. You got so many par 4s. You got to hit it and play off the tee. You got to hit it somewhat close on the green. And you got to make the putt. And he has not had the ability to go and capitalize on some of the great shots that he hit. I mean, in round 1, he missed a 3-footer. In round 2, it was in his opening 9 where he was 2 over par. He had 4 putts from 12 feet for birdie and missed them. You know, he was hitting it really well on the front 9, but just unfortunately walks away with all pars, and it was frustrating to watch. So hopefully he can figure something out on the greens this week. If he does, I do think he's hitting it well enough to go make a charge. But we haven't seen that streak where he really gets it going and gets it into gear, the thing that separates Scotty from the rest of the field in a normal week.
He also did the thing that I said he never does, which is bogey the last. Never goes out on a bad note. Went out on a bad note on Friday.
Yeah, and he was 75 yards from the hole, right? Very rare for him to hit that over the green. Now, I don't think he's been making mistakes like that very often this week, but that was definitely a notable.
If you think Scotty Scheffler's been putting poorly this week, and he has 2.5 strokes to the negative 111th in the field, let me introduce you to Jordan Spieth, who's lost 3 strokes putting to the field, and he ranks 117th. Both these guys are going to make the cut. Scotty in at 1 under, Jordan Spieth at even. That is going to be good enough, but Spieth had an opening 69, and he followed that up with a Friday 71 to get to that number. What's the current outlook on Jordan Spieth, who played alongside Tommy Fleetwood and Chris Kirk for the first 2 rounds?
Well, it's a little bit disappointing. The putter being cold is, I would say, the main item of interest here. It's the number one thing that you're looking for. But what it's felt like with Jordan really all year is that he's close, but he hasn't been able to put it all together. And that is very much on display again this week. He hit it pretty well yesterday. Wasn't able to make a thing. 26 feet of putts made in round 1, made some more today, but really still at 30 putts. He's not really making anything a note. Made a nice putt at 10 and did a nice job making the cut, but it's ultimately 17 was a clutch birdie as well. He needed it to make the cut. So I like seeing him grind, but there's a couple missing pieces so far this week. He's not hitting it close enough to the hole, and I guess he did in round 1. Round 2, he didn't hit it close enough to the hole at all, and did not give himself any opportunity to get on any kind of streak of note to get back in contention.
If you're watching on YouTube, we are potting through right now, which is our way to avoid any commercials and to see if you want to provide any support for the show. There's a couple ways to do that. Patreon is up and running. We've got giveaways over there and some fun stuff. Link in the description. If you don't want to support financially, all good. Hit the like button, retweet, subscribe, leave us a 5-star rating and review. All that good stuff goes a long way. And we've got a list of people on there, our patrons, like Joey, like Alex, like Mike, like Scott, who have supported. They're on the page right now. Speaking of support, a lot of support for one Ricky Fowler, Greg, and there's a lot to unravel here. So Ricky's 6 under, he's 5 shots off the lead. He's currently in a tie for 7th. He opened up with a round of even par 70 where he made 2 birdies and 2 bogeys. Then he went nuts today, turned in 29, and shot a 64 for the second best round of the day. This comes at the same time, of course, that he is getting another sponsor's invite to a signature event. He is in the Memorial for next week, which really, really gets Twitter up in arms when Ricky Fowler gets an invite, when Matt Kuchar gets an invite. I'm not sure I blame them. Because Ricky hasn't played particularly well this year, but he seems to be garnering a lot of attention for not necessarily his play on the golf course.
Well, there's it feels like special treatment, right? And that's why Twitter gets up in arms. Now, we have sponsor exemptions for special treatment, right? They are designed, the fact that they exist says there's going to be special treatment. And it's however many spots it is, usually four spots, where the sponsors can say, hey, we're going to contribute. We're going to create the field that we want, give guys a chance, bring someone in of note, somebody you'd be interested in watching, whatever your purpose is as a sponsor, you get that choice. Now, I do believe that Ricky Fowler is a notable player, somebody that people want to watch, and he creates attention, whether it's good or bad. Now, fortunately, it's never bad because of his behavior. It's just bad because people feel like he shouldn't be there. Right. And then you see what he's doing this week. It was a really impressive. He went out in 29. Mm-hmm. That's really impressive. He was great with the driver. He hit some great approach shots, and he made some putts that had a significant break to him. He had great speed control on the greens today, and some of these putts looked like the Ricky Fowler of 2015. So I was pretty psyched to see that.
Yeah, he's got the big boy, the big lab putter in play, and it's a spaceship, and he's rolling it. He's rolling it well. To put a bow on next week's Memorial, the sponsors' invites are Fowler, Jordan Spieth, Matt Kuchar, Brandt Snedeker. Make of that what you will. We have seen Ricky pop for a round or two. I'm thinking, round 2 of the Valero Texas Open a couple of starts ago, he picked up 6.5 strokes to the field. That round, it has not been necessarily, he opened up well at the Players. He picked up 4.5 there. He opened up well at the Honda or the Cognizant. He picked up 4.5 there. It has not necessarily been that he lacks the upside. He's lacking the consistency.
I think you're spot on with that, Rick. It's, how does he follow up a good round with a great round? And how does he develop through a tournament? And I think there's a good sign to that. When somebody when they're showing the ability for upside and they're not repeating, they're not able to continue that. I still think there's an opportunity for those players to get back on track and put 4 rounds together. It's like Keith Mitchell, for instance, who's been playing great in first rounds and then kind of faltering after that. But the next step is that you start playing better in the remaining rounds. So there's something good there. There's something that's working. He's not getting lucky to go out there and put together good rounds. It's just a matter of doing it 4 days in a row, which is a great challenge. But the fact that you can do it once is a really good sign. The fact that you can do it once across multiple weeks is still a really good sign.
I'm not going to ask you for the exact finish in the exact tournament, but if I asked you to guess what Ricky Fowler's best finish at any event is this year, what would you set that line at? What do you think the best finish he's had at any event is this year?
Off the top of my head, T12.
Okay. Yeah, very close. T15. T15 at the Truist is his best finish. He is obviously inside that right now, so we'll keep an eye on Ricky the rest of the way. He's currently in a tie for 7th. That 64 moved him up 50 spots. Currently also in a tie for 7th is Tommy Fleetwood. And Greg, this could not be any different than how Ricky got to 6 under. Ricky goes 70-64. Tommy, of course, does it in his own way. 67, very little turbulence, very little trouble, just 2 bogeys on the week. He started his Friday round the same way Scotty started his Thursday round, eagle birdie out of the gate. And I'm not sure if you know this, Greg. I'm not sure if you've heard this yet. Tommy Fleetwood has 40 top 10 finishes. 40 top 10 finishes, the most of any golfer on I think in PGA Tour history without a win. 40. I don't know if you knew that. That's something I just came up with myself.
I didn't know the number was 40, but I knew it was a lot.
Yeah.
And I knew that he hadn't won yet. All right. Maybe this is the week for Tommy Fleetwood. Look, I think it's a fascinating question. Which would you rather have? Would you rather have the ability to go out there and gain 6.5 strokes in one round, and not have an inability to put 4 rounds together? Or would you rather be like Tommy Fleetwood, who's been pretty darn well-rounded in every area of his game? If you go look on rickrungood.com and you look at his stat profile, it's hard to find a better one. right? But there's just no trophies. And so you wonder, is there a problem here? And I think at this point, it's pretty clear that it's an issue. It's something that he thinks about. Perhaps there have been a couple of instances of misfortune or bad luck, like a 72-foot putt being made against you in a playoff.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's the lost item in Nick Taylor's win, the first Canadian to win the Canadian Open in 70 whatever years it was, the Adam Hadwin tackle, like all the thing that got lost, and I bet you most people do not remember, he beat Tommy Fleetwood in the playoff, which is just insane.
Yeah, it's like perfection. If you're looking at that event, it added to the significance of what took place there in that playoff. So look, I'm a big proponent of Tommy Fleetwood. I like that he can perform in majors. He can step up and play great golf in big events. You feel like he could win anywhere because of the style of play that he has. He's not even a member of Team No Putt, Rick. He putts well. Mm-hmm. His short game's good. He's so steady and so consistent. And I just question what that upside ceiling is. Can he go out there and make a charge, put together a 29 like Ricky Fowler did today, and go take over a tournament? He hasn't been able to do that yet in his career. I think all the pieces in his game are there for him to win, and I do believe it will happen eventually.
Ben Griffin, Matty Schmidt, 11 under par. They lead going into the weekend. John Pock did birdie his final hole today, number 18, so he closes that gap to 2. He is in third by himself at 9 under. Chris Goddard in fourth by himself before Akshay Bhatia and Rio Hisatsune come in at T5. Greg, I saw there were a lot of questions in the chat. I'll just grab one of them here from Tom, which is referring to the fact that Rory McIlroy is not in the field for next week's Memorial. It'll be the first time since 2017 he does not play that event. I'm assuming this is just a casualty of the schedule, right? I mean, it's Truist, it's the PGA Championship. We're going to go to the U.S. Open. We're going to have the Travelers. He seems like he is opting and is going to go to the Canadian Open. He's not going to play whatever it would be 6 weeks in a row. He's obviously, but he has made this very strong connection with the Canadian Open over the years, and that is the path that he's going down.
Yes, it has been a really strong connection. I think it's important that the players on the PGA Tour have the ability to choose their own schedule. It's a really important avenue. And just because an event is a signature event, it doesn't mean you have to play. And when you get to the level of a Rory McIlroy, where the question of FedEx Cup points, the question of dollars in your bank account are not there, you are only playing for legacy. It's a really hard place to get to in this game. He's not worried about job security. Okay. And even if he was, he wouldn't be worried about having no job, because he is doing just fine in all these areas. So he's playing for not only trophies, but specific trophies. And so, yep, it's great to go ahead and honor the Canadian Open, a place you feel comfortable, a place you've had great success. You like the style of golf. It makes sense. And how do you want to prepare for the U.S. Open? Do you want to take a week off before? Do you want to play 3 in a row? Or is it 4 in a row with the Travelers? Something's got to give if you're going to play the Canadian Open, and if you want to play the week before a major to get ready. He did not play the week before the Masters, although that one can be a little bit different. So he did play the week before the U.S. Open last year, because the Memorial was the week before. So maybe he just wants to kind of roll with that same schedule that he did with Pinehurst last year and go get ready for the U.S. Open the week before.
I would love it if the Canadian Open was a signature event. In fact, I think all the National Opens should basically be signature events, right? I think that would make the Mexico Open a signature event, which, hey, listen, I also think that the signature event should rotate. So if I think they should rotate, I think they should go to John Deere and whatever. I also think they should go to Mexico. But I would love a world where the National Opens meant a lot, where the Mexico Open, the Canadian Open, the Scottish Open, of course, the U.S. Open on this circuit were all signature events. Now, there are plenty of other National Opens that are being played around the globe that the PGA Tour is not affiliated with, but the ones that they are affiliated with, I wish they were on a bit of an elevated stage.
Yeah, it would be a cool thing. You know, the Mexico Open's an interesting one because it hasn't even always been a PGA Tour event.
But it is now, baby.
Right.
Now.
And so now it is. And I get that. I think it would be really cool. This is a challenge because you're looking at now sponsorships. And when you want to create that purse, that $20 million purse, are you going to the federal government of some of these other nations and saying, hey, let's to the Mexican government, let's elevate this. Can you put up $20 million for your National Open to be a signature event on the PGA Tour?
You don't think Vedanta World will like quadruple their investment in this?
It's a tough thing. Right. It's a tough thing. It's great for them to be a part of the PGA Tour. That's clearly something that they wanted. But all of a sudden, we're going to go ahead and make all National Opens a signature event. The price tag just got very steep. So I understand the challenges, but in an ideal world, it would be a very cool thing.
Yeah, I just think, and even if it's not an actual signature event, there's just something that needs to be done to like I don't know, make them more important. And maybe I don't know what that is, but we can figure that out another day. Anything else, Greg? We're halfway home. We've got a leaderboard that has Ben Griffin, who's been playing well. We've got the stars who made the cut, but they've got work to do on the weekend. We've got some names like Ricky Fowler and Tommy Fleetwood lurking. Is there anything else we should chat about on this fine Friday evening?
One other guy that really has my interest heading into the weekend would be Akshay Bhatia. I'm fascinated by him. I think this is a great golf course for him. The way that he can find so many fairways off the tee. He's a very accurate driver of the golf ball. He likes to work the ball both ways into the greens, especially. Likes to shape some shots. I think this could be a really good setup for him. I love the bogey-free 66 that he shot in this second round as well. And it's been a really well-rounded performance from him that is fitting to his new identity with his newfound success on the greens. He's 9th in strokes gained putt-in, hasn't done anything crazy. It's just been good. He's hit 12 greens both days. It's a little above average. He's 25th in strokes gained approach for the week. So it's been a lot of really good stuff from Akshay Bhatia. And it feels like this is a guy that's ready to go get hot, go shoot a 63 in one of these final two rounds and put himself right there in the mix.
There's a lot of ways this weekend could go. I'm interested. I'm here for it. And then obviously we're going to be here on Sunday night to break it all down no matter what happens. Maybe Scotty Scheffler makes up a 10-shot deficit. I don't know. Maybe Jordan Spieth falls off a cliff. I don't know. He's done crazy things before. I don't know what he's going to do. But we'll be here. And we'll be here Sunday night when that final putt drops to chat it all out. For now, big thanks to producer Mina. She's doing all the hard work behind the scenes. That right there is Greg DuCharme. You can find him on Twitter at @TheRealGFD, and you can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.